German city of Leipzig is an example of a city that has been systematically working for years to return lost water to its landscape. And today I will tell you how it started and how it goes. In fact, Leipzig was founded at the confluence of several rivers, beside which an extensive network of canals was dug in the 12th century, which helped to regulate the efforts of floods and set in motion the mills and machines of numerous weaving factories. However, in the 20th century, the water of the canals began to be heavily polluted by untreated industrial effluents, which reached its peak in the 1940s. From the garnish of the city, the canals turned into a source of problems. And right after the World War II, the city authorities, instead of fighting the reasons of this, decided to focus on hiding the symptoms. Canals smell and look bad. Let's just hide them underground. So during the 1950s, more than 3 kilometers of canals were buried in underground collectors or simply covered with soil. Of course, it changed city landscape significantly, but there were also much more serious problems. During the rains in the city and upstream, the city's drainage system started to fail and the city began to flood. At the end of the 80s, local group of artists and architects started the New Shore movement, the goal of which was restoration of Leipzig canals and comeback of city's individuality. They were collecting materials, held exhibitions and discussions, and explaining the importance of restoring water in the city. One of the campaigns was the marking of places on the streets where the canals once passed. And finally, the movement gained citywide support and became an official city project, the first stage of which was to solve the problem of water pollution in the canals. Already in the 2000s, city started construction of canals, the main purpose of which was distribution of water and prevention of flooding. The first nearly 1,000 meters of canals was opened in 2007, and in the future the next stage was completed every 3-5 years. Construction process was carried out in dense surroundings, so architects and builders took into account the proximity of buildings' foundations. One of the areas just before the start of works looked like this, and after them turned into this. And this is the opening of new Estermühlgraben canal with the orchestra and kayakers. As it always happens in such cases, citizens' opinions about the canal's restoration have divided. Some of them were supported the project and were ready to tolerate inconvenience caused by construction works, while others were telling that creation of new public spaces in a prestigious area at the time when the other areas are full of problems is not the best investment. Meanwhile, city mayor was explaining that the main goal of the project is not to create places for recreation, but to protect city from floods. Although I wouldn't say that these areas looked very respectable before the canals were laid. From space, the changes in 11 years looks like this. Next area just around the corner of previous one before the canal construction, and how it looks nowadays. The square in front of the Federal Administrative Court of Germany was also transformed by canal. Embankment here was made of grass terraces, so students from university campus close by have a place to sit with a laptop. This area close to Richard Wagner Platz was one of the first to be opened. Long before the water was opened, such columns were placed along the future channels in many places. They glow blue at night and teach the townspeople to think where the water is. And this looks like a major rethinking of the New Shore movement, which at one time drove wooden stakes into the ground along the non-existent canals to show their possible location. Passing under the street, canal continues and goes along. This is Partey River in the north of the city center, flowing before it under the railway tracks of the central station. In its calm state it looks quiet, but during the century flood of 2002 this modest stream got a little bit rowdy and caused damage in several small towns along its path. And now we move on to the second part of our story. All you saw before are the canals restored from scratch in the very center of the city. But apart from them, Leipzig had a lot of functioning canals further from the center, which had been forgotten and cluttered for years. And within the framework of this program, they were also brought to order. Here the canals are passing among the former industrial buildings of the Plagwitz district, so it's not surprising that they were not buried underground. There were probably no one to complain about the bad smells. Of course, a lot of things has changed since then. The water became cleaner and the old weaving factory was converted into housing. Once depressed area now is actively being built up. And great attention here is also paid to restoration of flora and fauna in the canal. Now the canal's network is wide enough to drive excursion boats through them. And from the water we can see completely different view of the city. On the opposite side of this building is a busy street with cars and trams, but here is almost a rural pastoral area. Along the canal there is also a path for cyclists or pedestrians, which is extremely pleasant to walk or ride on. A local television studio shoots its program in this building. Not bad. Unfortunately, over the time, some canals became very overgrown. I hope this will be corrected later when the network will be fully completed, so water can flow without any obstacles. Now new canals are under construction in other areas, so water is gradually returning to the cityscape, and every canal becoming a big public space with embankments and bridges. One of the ongoing projects is the construction of canal-side harbor for small boats with waterfront public space. Here is a visualization and the pictures of construction works. And this is another places where canals are just about to restore in the future. In general, canals in the city are only a visible part of a larger project, which also includes new canals and reserve ponds around the city, connected by a system of locks and designed to redistribute and divert a large amount of water during the floods. And finally, a few words about another water project in Leipzig. About creation of the Leipziger Neue Lake Park south of the city. The scale of changes can be estimated from the satellite photos. The total lake's area is comparable to the area of the city itself, and this is not the end. The duration of the project is planned until 2060. In the past, this area was used as an open lignite mine. The first quarry here was turned into a lake back in 1954. And in the 90s, after unification of Germany, the local coal suddenly became useless and the question arose, what to do with the quarries now? And finally, they decided to create a giant entertainment and a recreation area. The newly formed Konspodzeje Lake has an area of more than 4 square kilometers and a maximum depth of 54 meters. The total area of the lakes at the time of completion should be about 70 square kilometers, and the cost of renovation is estimated at 3.5 billion euros. The project was named Neue Seeland. That means New Lake Land and sounds in German like a pun on the New Zealand name. By the way, when Leipzig was applying to the 2012 Summer Olympics, these lakes were planned to hold competitions in rowing, beach volleyball and some others. The great thing is that you can get to the lakes from the city center by bike in about 40 minutes through parks and such paths with just a few busy street crossings. Then you arrive and see this. That's wonderful to have such a big recreation area so close to the city. You can ride around the lake and get to an observation tower. The tower's frame is made of wood and the top is sways in the wind, but the view's worth it. These lakes also caused active development, and now the area is filling with recreation centers, cafes, restaurants, sport facilities and housing. When it comes to working with water, the main authorities here are the Netherlands. But these projects show that Leipzig also has a lot to learn from. In my opinion, this is a great example of how cities correcting mistakes of the past and returning water to its environment. It creates biodiversity, makes city more comfortable and bring depressed and abandoned areas back to life. Of course, it needs lots of investments, but the result will be a better place to live, increase of commercial activity, tourism development and lots of other things. And in my opinion, it's worth the effort. And that's all for a moment. If you liked this video, please hit the subscribe button and leave your comments. And also visit our Patreon page where you can support our channel. See you in the next videos.